Yo, it's ODB from OLP. This is issue 125 of Mini Truckin Magazine, May 2002. And it's a good one. We got a lot in store. Hopefully you'll watch this to the end. Consider subscribing. Leave a comment, even if it's just a thumbs up emoji. It definitely helps out. This is Chris Billy Bob Mull, so nicknamed Billy Bob. His 86 Mazda B2000, of course, sporting awesome graphics. It is titled Outrageous Orange. I think peach more, right? That's the color I think of. The truck has had about 4 different looks. You won't believe it. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to shoot away here just to a second. If you look here, we had Billy Bob on episode 60 of OLP. And first version, second version, kind of similar color, at least according to the photo. And the third version that you see here with the graphics, and the next version, which we're going to look a little bit more at here in just a few minutes. So a little bit of behind the scenes. But hopefully you'll stick with us, because there's a lot to talk about here again throughout this flip through. This was the 5th cover truck with Centerline wheels. And if you stick with us to the end, I'll talk about how many total cover trucks had Centerline wheels. It was the 2nd Subculture truck to grace the cover of Mini Truckin Magazine. It was the 33rd credited cover by Wes Allison. The model is the beautiful Mishel Thorpe. Now, a little bit later as well, I'm going to give you guys a bonus. We're going to look at his other features with this truck. It took me some time to dig out the issues, but I did it, and I nailed them. I kind of nailed them down. And we'll look at those briefly, at least the features, so you guys get a chance to see how much exposure this one truck did receive. So we're going to go ahead and jump in here. And again, our website, you can buy decals and stickers. We've got new lower prices now on all stickers, ourlifestylepodcast.com. We can see here Wes Allison gets the credited cover. Lance does the write-up. And he brought his Mazda all the way down from Washington. What's pretty cool is I wanted to get with Billy Bob and kind of do a different flip through, but we've got an idea to do something going forward. And Billy Bob has actually been to my house. He came down years ago to a show in Tampa and was hanging out with Ron and Hank and all the crew, and they came by. So it's pretty cool to think Mini Truckin brought us together. He's from Washington, I'm from Florida. You got the scrub line with Lance Martz, and of course you've got Purgatory. We did announce on episode 330 of OLP who is the owner of Purgatory now. It was for sale, as some of you know, and we did announce that. Shout out to the new owner. Definitely appreciate you guys checking us out. Make sure you check out OLP via most podcast apps. I want to say any, but I'd probably say most. And we have a free bi-weekly show. Ricky Smith's Ford Ranger, very cool color. I dig it. Grounded Concepts. You get the rag top. And we got Slamobree 8 by Lance Martz. Killer Mazda. Definitely picking back up with these issues, these flip throughs. So thanks for all the support and comments. Definitely appreciate. Some get more streams than others. Everybody kind of got in at a different time, but certainly if you can share this with the homies, the club mates and whatnot, and just say, yo, check them out, give them a like, leave a comment, it definitely helps. This thing's crazy right here. Now, we recently continued the podcast after Mini Nats, so we did have, this year we're doing bi-weekly episodes, as I mentioned, and it was pretty cool to have Brubaker on, so check us out. And when I mentioned having Billy Bob on episode 60, what you could always do is you could always go through the Podbean app, and you can search like Billy Bob or whatever the title is or whatever you're looking for, and that app will let you go all the way back to the beginning, because they host our podcast. That was Finnegan's Life in the Fat Lane. And here you go, the Nissan Hardbody. This thing is pretty cool. And the guy's name was Mike Graves. I knew it was Mike. And Simple Seduction. Tweed, the era of tweed, but we did start to see a lot of painted dashes, as I've said, in this era. Still with the old school vibe with the topper and a little bit of car audio with everything decked out in the inside of the topper. Make sure you check us out on social media. Facebook, Instagram is primarily where we post. And I did a ton of reels. I can't believe some of the reels, over 250,000 views, just insane. And definitely appreciate you guys chiming in as well when I miss things, or if you've got insight or corrections. I do appreciate it. Dustin Havens, this is would go on to be Suicidal Toy, I believe, right? And I didn't get a chance to really flip through this one before I started, so it's probably been many 20 years almost since I've seen this one. But I believe that's Suicidal Toy there. After the success of the S10, you have Casey Jones's 90 Hardbody, Lancaster, Ohio, tuck and wheel. Nice little spin on the tag. These things look so good laid out, even in primer with the billet. And this one has always stuck out to me because of the whole bed setup, a little bit different. Something kind of cool, nice and symmetrical. Dope stuff. This truck is owned by, if it's Suicidal Toy, it's Ronnie Cup, I think, still owns it, and he's done a good job of bringing that thing out. Didn't see it this year at Mini Nats, but it's kind of cool to see a little bit different mix of stuff. Billy Bob's Bucket. Definitely not a bucket in my opinion. The Duke of Do-It-All-Yourselfers. And like I said, you got the beautiful Mishel Thorpe. That truck, though. This thing is insane. Again, Subculture, shout out to the fam there. Billy Bob is now in Relaxed Atmosphere. He won the OLP Truck of the Year for 2021 with the Datsun NL320, I think it is. This thing is cool because we talked about a little bit of the art direction, how, you know, they went, I mean, these layouts were pretty sick. Incorporating some of the graphics and whatnot in, and then you can see there inside Billy Bob's Bucket, the colors, the scheme. Just check this out real quick. Look how nice it is. Now, what I'm going to do, once I finish the flip through, I am going to show you guys the other features, and you won't believe. You kind of saw at the beginning what the truck turned into, but this thing is just insane. Aberdeen, Washington, again, Subculture. And look how they did this layout. Pretty awesome. You have all of these smaller shots here. All very, very, very good shots. 3 on each page across the top. Look at that interior. Something a little bit different. All of that color interior just looks awesome. You've got the fuel cell photo there. And then boom, just a great bed photo here showing kind of a little bit above. You see the tailgate, the top of the tonneau cover. Of course, the back glass. You have the Subculture logo, and then above with the graphics. I mean, just looks awesome. I've always really dug the interior color on this. It was a lot different than what you've maybe accustomed to seeing, but also look at some of the brushed aluminum. You got the ball milled deals, pieces around the gauge clusters, the BADs, wheel. This was cool in an era when nitrogen bottles were kind of picking up. That's what I'm assuming it was, a small nitrogen bottle. And I had nitrogen on my Suburban. It was kind of nice. You didn't have to have a compressor, although it wasn't for everyone. And then that engine bay, just super slick. I mean, just a full-blown show truck. And it's hard to believe that this version of the truck eventually changes again. This was number 3 of 4, I think, technically. Look how perfect that is. The valance, the hood, across the top of the truck. It also gave me a little bit of a vibe of Rob's Isuzu. So a different color, but just, you know, standard cab truck. You got the sliding rag, which a lot of guys had, the billet wheels, a little bit of graphic a lot, you know, more than Rob's did. But I mean, just such an awesome truck. I just really look at this thing and go, man, dude, Billy Bob, this guy's so talented in what he does. And then he had the hot model, and Lance, of course, and team would have secured all that. And then Wes Allison, shoot, man. I mean, dude, just look at that. Fire. More fire. More fire. That's how awesome it is. So, tip of the cap. Again, it was teal and raspberry purplish in 92, solid peach circa 97, similar colors with graphics, this version in 2000, shot for Mini Truckin and Tailgate, which we'll look at, and then Topless, you won't believe the way it looked. Kind of hinted at it, that was shot for street trucks, and don't forget, SportTruck. So think about it. This thing had, at least as far as I know, 4 magazine features, and just a couple of different ways, and it had 4 different versions of it. There is Bad Rubber. So that was a good tech article. I did a similar thing on my Suburban years ago with the squeaky bushings and had them all pressed in. Bring the Noize. And something you didn't see a lot of, lifted newer round body S10. Clean Toyota. What do you guys think of these lights? It's kind of a craze at one point of lights getting crazier. There's Tuckin 20s that we recently saw on the cover with Finnegan's Taco, an Astro, and Steel Flame. Shout out to everyone that continues to support the reel. Definitely appreciate it. Follow the Lowered Carry On Wayward Sun. This was Matt Hill's 98 GMC Sonoma. Really dig this color. I do remember this truck. I never saw it in person, but I always really just got down with the color. You can see there they just left the keyhole. It looks like super clean, black tinted windows, clean engine bay. Those wheels to me were pretty timeless for many truckers. Big fan of Centerline wheels. And being that it was a little bit newer, those were the, I forget if those were the Sabras. I can't remember all the names of the wheels, but a little bit newer, so you had the different dash in it. Here is Circuit Training, How to Survive Any Show Weekend. So I was a fan of whenever they did things like this. And we saw some of this, you know, early on when they do like the photo shoot showing the fashion before Christmas and little things like that. But this was cool. And then, oh, by the way, you get a couple of Cadillacs snuck in there. That looks like Tuckin 20s right there, right? Because we can see extended cab with the hood. Definitely West Coast. And, you know, mini truckers were quickly gravitating to full-size Chevys, but also Cadillacs have been a mainstay in the scene a long time. Of course, I'm a Lincoln guy, but, you know, Cadillacs, Lincolns, they kind of go hand in hand. The big boats, as they're often referred to as. And, again, just kind of cool, you know, just going through some stuff, including when I remember driving in my buddy Chris's truck, riding in it all the way from here, body dropped all the way to Nopi, you know, 8-10 hours away. And we'd have our little tackle box he would always take of different stuff, you know, in case you blew an airline, you have, you know, things like that. I don't know how often people really think of that kind of stuff. This is a cool photo. All the same rides cruising. I don't know how often people think of that kind of stuff now. I guess as I get older, like I want to be more prepared on road trips. Tangelo Dreams. This was Anthony Colian. And this was a severed truck for a long time. I got a chance to see this one at a show a couple years ago. Maybe it was LST. And this thing is very distinctive because of the front, with it molded with that bumper and Nightmares for All. Pretty cool. I really dig the layout on this too, because you've got the truck that really just pops out, and then the way they you know, everything around it kind of has that dull look, and then it, you know, crosses over to the black here. Looks awesome. You can see there the photos look different. Again, nitrogen, a lot of the ST Texas guys were running that stuff. And those bottle brackets often, you know, came from Extensive. Those, you know, Bill was running nitrogen on his dually and a couple of his rides, I remember, and he'd usually have two, and you'd call if you needed your dual bottle brackets, and you'd buy it from Extensive. That's where I got mine from, finally, eventually. Fallout 2K1, so here is, again, tip of the cap. This is the truck known as Welcome to the Jungle. I mentioned that when we went through the flip through. Thing is super clean. Always dug this truck. Again, if you see things, or hey, that was my truck on page such and such at such and such time in the video, feel free to add it in. Any intel. Here's riding around. You can see, again, more color. If you think about, we're still not to all color yet. This thing is old school all the way. Definitely apologize for the shadows. Try to kind of avoid them as much as possible. There's mini market. This was always cool right here. Making a mini truck in the sand. And then check this out. Crew cab trucks started to become, you know, really big. And they're huge now. Dakota Digital, I think, still makes that. They're the digital gauge, which now with AccuAir and stuff, you don't always need it. This was May 2000, so we're now in May 2023, so 21 years ago. And, of course, this would have been out like 4 to 6 weeks before May-ish, right? So you would have had the advertisement for ShowFest. We were there. We started going in 2000, and we went for several years in a row. 6 or 7, it seemed like, until the one I did not go to was the last year in Greenville. I think my son was very young and just didn't make it, and that was the year it kind of got even crazier. There is the photo I always talk about. And you could see, I forgot to check my note before I started to see, hey, are we all in color yet? Because we get to it. But you can see, like, that photo is technically black and white. This ad is black and white. All of this is now in color. You know, they're starting to kind of ratchet it up. But I think technically this issue, like when you look at these ads, they do get to all color. Here's the Mitsubishi I mentioned. I got a chance to see one time with the roll pan ripped a little bit, I think at ITB. Looks like a Ranger, of course, a hard body. This thing was around a while. Super nice show truck. And you can see, again, with some more color throughout here. And I think recently Phil Fowler had chimed in. There was a Low Rollers tattoo, and he said that was his. Not saying this one. I'm saying a recent one. Phil's always good about texting, going, yo, I saw the latest flip through XYZ. 1, 2, 3. Here's a couple things. Nate Dog must have been his nickname, and then No End to Construction, which I always thought that was neat, and then Lower View. They always had a badass rear logo. So there you have it, May 2002, and basically this was the 5th out of 10 trucks with Centerline wheels. It's kind of crazy to think there were only 10 cover trucks with Centerline wheels. Again, the second cover for Subculture. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to reach over here and show you guys, make this kind of quick. There is, if you're looking to dig these out, December 2000. So it was cool that and you could see, I think, some subtle changes that he made, but there's a good photo of it, like seeing with that grill all the way across, you know, underneath the hood, showing how it was smooth, things like that. But it was cool if you think about it, with this being May 2002, this feature came out before that. So you know, it would have been great, you know, being in the same club as Lance, you know, and Lance fighting to go, hey, this is a badass truck. This deserves a cover. And it certainly did. And obviously, I'm pretty certain he did more work to it since then. Now, this is where it gets crazy. Stick with me a minute. This is way back. Now, I loved the truck the way it was. This era, you started to have a little bit of the flat black coming in. I don't want to say rat rod-ish era, but February 04, you basically have the third time's a charm for Billy Bob's retro Mazda. And I think technically, although Brian McCormick shot and wrote this, I think the third time's a charm was kind of like, it was, you know, maybe not counting the very first version, or maybe the version that was similar paint but without graphics. That was maybe version 2, if you know what I mean. So this thing was insane. This is the same truck, topless. He's posted some photos in the past where the top was on, and he said typically he would just take it off as soon as he would get to the show. But I mean, to me, I probably would have never changed it, but I must admit, I really dig this look. Topless, I think, is awesome. And with the smoothie wheel, again, not saying that I would have necessarily changed it, but I dig this look a lot. I mean, you could easily change the wheels if you wanted billets. You know, you got the billet grill on it. The engine bay looks similar, obviously, with the flames. And then the interior was awesome. And then when I was doing my research, I said, oh yeah, I text Billy, and he goes, don't forget about SportTruck, and I had to go find it. I thought it was February 07, and I was right. It was February 07. Galen and Greg Ballard, no relation to me, I don't believe, they shot it as well, and you could see the white wall tires, similar look, but again, different layout, and the different layout gives you a totally different vibe on it, to me. A little bit more heavy with the interior photos. You got the tuck stuff going on here, right? I think it's called technically. But just the seat, just a cool hot rod vibe. This is how talented Billy is, you know, being able to kind of go back and do these things. So shout out to him. And thanks for everyone for watching. Really appreciate it. Thanks for watching all the way through. I think I covered all the details. Chris was a guest on episode 60 of OLP, and that was the cover art for it. I'm going to go ahead and remind you guys to subscribe if you haven't already. You can see we put a lot of work. I put a lot of work into kind of bringing all of this content together, and some of you guys appreciate it. Some casually appreciate it, and I thank you guys for that. Stay on the rise, y'all. BEAUTIFUL. You can see no Subculture logo on the cover. Forgot to mention that. Peace.